Today's episode is dedicated to coaches, consultants, experts, and healers. Because of the very personal nature of the relationships you have with your clients, I'm sure you've had those moments with clients or even prospects where they push boundaries and they feel your policies shouldn't apply to them because of their life circumstances and they want an exception. It can be a real tricky line to walk because without happy customers, you don't have a business. Yet those requests are often quite disruptive to your business or even your cash flow. So what do you do? Hello, I'm Nafissa Shireen and welcome to Living Forward TV, where we bring you actionable content each and every week, all designed to help you build a thriving business around your personal freedom. And in each episode, we also include a free resource that you can download and use right away in your business so that you can get results faster. You're going to want to grab today's for sure because it's going to help you navigate that tricky area of client requests for special accommodations. And when it comes to accommodations at Living Forward, we're committed to ensuring everyone who interacts with us, whether they're a client or not, feels appreciated and celebrated. One of our very core brand values is exploring possibilities. So of course, when it's appropriate, if a client or a prospect has a need, we're going to look for a creative solution that empowers them and helps them move forward, and sometimes a solution to help them navigate a challenging life circumstance. And that's something I encourage you to look at as well. It'll make your clients feel loved, appreciated, and celebrated, but only as long as it doesn't interfere with your overall business operations. The thing to keep in mind, though, is that there's a very, very fine line between empowering your client and enabling your client. And that's an easy line to cross, especially in a helping profession. What I've found is that 9 times out of 10, the very accommodation the client's asking you to make is exactly where they're stuck in their life and why they hired you, and now it's showing up in their relationship with you. And what they're really looking for when they ask you to make an exception is permission to say exactly where they are and not to have the breakthrough they hired you for. Now, here are some examples of what these requests could look like. For instance, they enter into an agreement with you, with your business, they have a contract, halfway through they want to cancel because they don't think they can afford it anymore. Or maybe they're just perpetually late on every single payment. Or maybe they miss a session and they don't cancel and they don't follow your cancellation policy and they still want you to reschedule because they don't want to forfeit their session. Or maybe it's not even a client yet. You had a conversation with a prospect many months ago who didn't want to enroll at the time, but now wants to enroll with you and feels that they should still get the price you had way back then, even though you've had a price increase. Now, this list could be much, much longer, and I'm sure you get the gist of it. These types of requests come up all the time, and we've all experienced them. And before we go any further, I do want to emphasize that you're running a business, not a charity. And as I mentioned at the outset, while we believe in exploring possibility, first and foremost, you can never jeopardize your business. And if accommodating a client is going to put you in a financial bind, or if it's going to interrupt your business flow and be disruptive, then you aren't helping them by accommodating them. You're rescuing them at your expense. And even when you can accommodate without too much interruption in your business, in a helping profession, you still want to ask yourself if it's truly in the service to the client to accommodate them. One of our other core values here at Living Forward is personal power. And when a client has a circumstance that they allow to be bigger than them, then the last thing I want to do is enable them to allow that belief to keep impacting their behavior and their results and their life. That's not why they hired me, and it would be completely out of integrity to allow that circumstance to take them out. The question I always ask myself, and I challenge you to ask yourself as well, is this: will accommodating the client help them to move forward, or am I giving them permission to stay stuck? Will I help or hinder their progress? It's always really interesting to me as a coach to look at what goes on outside of the coaching session, because that lets me know if there's more work to be done or if the client needs some more support in other areas. You know, sometimes when things aren't going well, I find clients can be embarrassed, and so they tend to tell their coach what they think the coach wants to hear instead of what's really going on. And that's why requests for accommodation are really insightful and really enlightening, because it lets you know what's truly happening for them. And if this issue is showing up with their program with you, it's most definitely showing up elsewhere in other areas of their lives, and specifically the results that they hired you for. And yes, this applies even if your work is a softer skill, such as energy work, wellness work, life or relationship coaching. It may not seem like an administrative issue with your business is connected to what they're working on with you. Trust me, though, it is. If they're letting themselves be taken out by a business issue with you and wanting you to understand their circumstances, you can be sure that they're letting themselves be taken out in other areas of their life. Now, you might be wondering, though, well, what's the difference between a creative, empowering solution and enabling? I'm going to give you two examples of how that could look, and I'm going to give you an enabling way and an empowering way. So let's consider maybe you're running a promotion or incentive. You run this promotion where if you enroll by midnight on such and such a date, there's a savings or a bonus. Now, your client or prospect at the time isn't ready to move forward. It might be out of fear. Maybe they didn't want it. I mean, it could be really any reason, right? The point is they chose, either by action or inaction, not to move forward. Then they decide later that they really, really want it. So they come to you and say, you know what, I want that now. I want to move forward. And I still want to have the incentive. And they give you all the reasons why they should still get that incentive. Now, I understand how uncomfortable that can be, and especially if you're really wanting to enroll some more clients. However, to give in for an incentive that other clients had to meet the requirements of is not only enabling this client to not break through their blocks, it's completely out of integrity to those who honored the deadline. Now, where this missed incentive might be an opportunity to empower a client is, let's just say it's a really good client of yours, you've had them for years, and they go on an unplugged vacation. And during that time, you ran the promotion. You thought of mentioning it to them before they went away, but you didn't want to be pushy, so you just let it sit. Now they come home, they find out, and they're a little bit put out, and they ask you, why didn't you tell me about it? I would have signed up and paid before I left, gladly. Now in that case, good customer service means you'd make an exception because this was kind of your fault. You didn't tell them about it, and you knew they were going away. Now, another example, and a much more common one, is how the client treats their payment arrangement with you. If they're consistently late, asking you to hold off on processing their credit card, and each month you go, oh my goodness, here we go again, wondering if you're going to get paid, if you simply keep the conversation about the timing and receipt of the payment and not having a courageous conversation about the pattern that's causing them to always be late, then that's enabling the client to stay stuck in a pattern that doesn't serve them with you or anywhere else in their life. And you can be sure this pattern is showing up in other places. Now, this is very different than if, say, you and your client enter an agreement on the 18th of the month, and so your auto payment is set to charge every month on the 18th. And they ask instead if it can be on the 21st because they get all their payments on the 20th. Now, in this situation, it simply is an administrative issue and a timing difference, and you can accommodate them. Now, these are just a couple of examples, and the latter of both of these situations becomes an opportunity for you to make an empowering and creative accommodation for your client to help them move forward, versus the former, where you would actually be giving someone permission to say the guidelines don't apply to them. And as I mentioned at the outset, we truly believe in making our clients feel special and celebrated. And if we can accommodate them without disruption to our business in a way that keeps them whole and moves them forward, we'll do it. And it really is a fine line between enabling and empowering. And that's why in our handout today, I give you 8 questions to consider when your clients or prospects are asking you for an exception. And these questions will help you determine if accommodating them will empower them or enable them. The focus in a helping and healing profession is to empower people to move through what's holding them back. And that includes how they show up in business transactions, including their transaction with you. And that means for you to be a stand for where they want to go, not for where they are. And sure, in that moment, when you say no to their request, they may get upset. And you need to be prepared that some may even go into blame and try to assign fault and get really angry. But don't let that take you out. It's not personal. In fact, the more upset they are, it really means it's truly an area of growth for them. Remember, by staying committed to the client or potential client's highest good, and allowing them to experience the discomfort and consequences of their choice can be a pivotal moment for them in their growth and development. And it's going to help them to break out of the pattern that's keeping them stuck. And that's exactly what they hired you for. It shows up in the sessions and in the arrangement. If you found today's episode helpful, then please share it with someone who you know needs it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It would be an honor. And I want to hear from you. Let me know what resonated most with you today in the comments below, and I'll be sure to come back and reply to you personally. And if you have more questions and need some help, then remember to join the Living Forward Facebook community, where I come to you live each week on After the Episode, and I take your questions and answer them. It's also a place where you can network, make connections, and grow your business. Simply hop on over to livingforwardcommunity.com, click the Join Now button, and I'll see you on the inside.